I can't do it. Okay. We'll do it live.
Okay.
We'll do it live. F it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Thing sucks.
Hurt.
No, I think she is.
Yeah, she's hurt. She took a hard fall off there.
Okay.
Gosh, I hope she's okay.
No, she wasn't okay. We had to play it. Somebody asked for it yesterday, and I said I would. I forgot to play it yesterday. I said, you know what? It's a perfect day on Tuesday, February 25th, to play it for you all. It's an oldie but goodie. I know there's some that don't like the Grape Lady. I, for one, appreciate the fall she had, the guts it took to stop grapes, and then to fall on live television. I feel like every day we do this live, I feel like her every single day when we do this. By the way, we do the show live every day. If you're watching or listening to this later, we do go live at 10 a.m. on YouTube, also on Twitter. So, again, just go to the YouTube page at Puck Sports. Twitter, the same thing. Puck Sports there on Twitter. We go live every day. Also, by the way, you can listen to the show in your fancy little, basically, family neglectors, what I call the iPhone, or just the mobile phone in general, because we have the iOS app, Puck Sports Mobile, also the Android app as well. You can listen to Puck Sports on the go, on the move, live. There just by listening to it on your phone, walking around the neighborhood. Maybe not today because it's windy and raining and all that. Or if you're in your car, it's on the App Store. Just plug your phone in and listen on the go. We are one stop. We cover everything. We cover video. We cover desktop. We cover your phones. And then if you don't watch or listen live, if you want to watch later, yes, we podcast everything up later on YouTube. When you're there, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, Puck Sports. Let's drive that viewership or that subscription up. Also, leave comments when you're there as well. I try to get to as many as I possibly can. And then also, if you just like to listen to the old school way, all the podcast platforms available, Apple, Spotify, YouTube Music. I always kind of praise YouTube Music. I like it because it lets you go and toggle between the video and audio. But it doesn't really matter where you listen. It really doesn't. Amazon Music, whatever your favorite podcast platform is. Also, Puck's Posse. Sign up to be a member today. You can join. It's just $5 a month. If you want to pay, you don't have to. You don't have to at all. You can also sign up for a year. With that, you get all the daily free content we do. We're adding stuff more and more, though. We have got Ryan Divish now part of the Puck's Posse membership. We still give you 20 minutes or so free of Divish every single week, but the full show, both audio and video, now part of the Puck's Posse membership. And let's be honest, Divish, it gives you baseball, bourbon, food, and a disdain for people. Folks, it pays for itself. It really does. And then also we've got our 7-part NFL Draft Countdown series with the Athletics' Dane Brugler, author of The Beast. Episode 1 was out last week. Episode 2 is coming next week. Now, what I did to give everyone kind of a sneak preview or a preview of what we're doing on the Puck's Posse side, if you are not a member and are wondering, well, what am I getting for my money? That's just what my wife asks me every day. What do I get out of this? Just me in general, by the way. I have unlocked last week's Dane Brugler episode, both the audio and video. And for Puck's Posse members, I don't know if I want to continue to do the audio. Maybe I just make that continue to do the video, or maybe I just make that an audio platform. I don't know. You tell me in the chat. or send me an email, puck@pucksports.com. In addition, I haven't tweeted it out yet. That tweet will come out later. But if you are a baseball nut and you're on the edge, I don't know if I want to pay the $5 or the discount for a year. I get it. Totally understand. People have got their own financial situations. By the way, if you do, you can always send me an email. I've taken care of people before. Puck@pucksports.com. I have unlocked also the last 3 shows of the Ryan Divish Experience. So the last 3 shows that have been 50-plus minutes each for just Puck's Posse members. For those who want a taste of it, say, all right, let me see. I might be on the fence. I'll listen to it, and maybe I'm in. Or I listen to that, and I'm out. That's fine as well. That is unlocked for you. That will be tweeted out later today, but you can simply just go to patreon.com pucksports /pucksports, and it will take you there, and you will get the audio and video versions of it as well. And it's linked there, the audio, to your RSS feeds that will then plug right into your preferred podcast platform, by the way. Probably the easiest way to go and to look at it is to simply just go to pucksports.com, and at the top of my webpage, there's a link there. We'll take you there immediately. Also, if you're watching the stream right now, that QR code that is on your screen, if you take a picture of that, it will take you there as well. All right, coming up on the show today, talk a little Cam Ward. A lot of Cam Ward hype at number 1. Well, not hype. He's going to go number 1, most likely. We're going to get into that a little bit. Julio, we talked yesterday with Brad Adam, who has started his weekly with us. He'll be on every Monday until the season starts, which we are 30 days away, I believe, for the start of the season. Does that sound right? Yeah, I think we are, which is weird. Then when the season starts, based on his schedule, and he talked about it yesterday on the show, in case you missed it, it's on yesterday's Daily Puck Drop if you want to watch or listen to it, and just about how much he's going to be traveling and the responsibilities, the future of Root and all that. So if you want to check that out, go do so, please. Wait till we're done here today. But when the season starts, based on his schedule, we'll kind of adjust and move him around. And we got some different baseball stuff that's going to be happening. Divish is back, talking to Duquette today. Hopefully we'll have something finalized with Duquette and some other little surprises that are in the mix. I can't say it yet, but I'm going to tell you right now, this is going to be a long, drawn-out tease. If you're on the fence, and I'll promote it soon if you want to dive into the Puck's Posse membership, we'll have a new weekly show. It's not just baseball, by the way. I mean, there'll be a lot of baseball with it because when it's starting. There's a new weekly show starting the week of opening day that will just be available to Puck's Posse members. And the show will come out on Mondays. And I'm going to just tell you right now, this is going to be an all-timer. Just an all-time show. 3 people. And with lots of laughs, stories, shit talking, and I can't be more excited for this show to debut the week of opening day. I'm just going to leave it at that. If you like funny and you like big personalities, then you're going to love what we got coming down the pike here starting this season or this baseball season. It's going to be great. Maybe I don't think I can overhype it enough. Especially if you're just like old school radio fans. You're going to enjoy it. All right. Also, we got Danny Kelly coming up in about, 5 minutes or so. Taped with Danny earlier today. He's at the Combine, the Underwear Olympics, getting ready for John Schneider, who I think is talking now as we speak. That's why we recorded it earlier. He wanted to go hear John, and then I think Pete Carroll's coming up tomorrow. John Canzano joins us around 10:40. Now, John, to tell you right now, has got some big news in regards to the Pac-12. Some big news in regards to Oregon State and Washington State. You're not going to want to miss it, coming up at around 10:45 with John Canzano. All right, Before we talk to Danny Kelly, we're actually going to talk to Danny about Cam Ward a little bit, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. The Cam Ward, number one, he's got the best odds to be selected number one overall. It's a real surreal thing to me, and I think to a lot of Washington State fans, when you start talking about Cam Ward being selected number one overall. I would say the Cam Ward experience at Washington State was hit and miss. I think there was a lot to like with Cam Ward at Washington State. He certainly didn't have as much talent around him that he did at Miami. And, of course, he looked better at Miami with better talent around him and simply just an overall better program. And that happens, and it's a bigger brand, so he's going to get more notoriety. And I do think Cam Ward took some improvements from where he was at Washington State and then what he did there at Miami. The one thing, though, and Danny mentioned it on his NFL Draft Show with The Ringer that we talked about with Danny on today's show, is, there's this viral video out there with him and Shedeur Sanders. And there's a lot of people that are saying, God, that's what a leader is like. I'll just say this. I think one of the biggest question marks with him, and certainly was a question mark at Washington State, a big question mark, like a really big one, was his leadership. He wasn't known, and I'm just telling you, firsthand knowledge, he was not known as the best leader at all. Not very vocal, but then just not very a great leader just in terms of what he did behind the scenes. That was a knock on him, a big knock. Now, again, I don't know. Maybe he's improved in the last year. Maybe he matured. We'll see. And if that's the case, I think anyone can always get better. I'm just saying at Washington State, that was a knock on him. And I think another knock on him a little bit, especially when you're a franchise quarterback, is how do you perform in the big moments, games on the line? And there certainly were games at Washington State where he just didn't perform well. Now, it's not all on him. He's one of 11 players on the field at one time. Miami, he was a little bit better, but not much. He still makes some throws that you just scratch your head at. Does make some throws where it does wow you. But it's interesting he is the odds-on favorite to be selected number one overall, whether that happens or not, but it looks like it will. He will be the number one quarterback being taken. We'll get more into that with Danny Kelly coming up in a moment. Number two on the rundown, Julio fast start. We'll maybe get a little bit more later into this, maybe on Hey, What the Puck. Because it was something that came from a conversation yesterday with Brad Adam when he's on for his weekly. The fast start that is needed for Julio is paramount. So much depends on how he starts off the season. His career splits so far early in his season. They're just not good in the first month of the season. It's by far and away his worst month in his very early professional career. A .296 on base percentage, a slugging of .347, an OPS of .642. Now, July, August, and September are strong, but I think his struggles do coincide with the team that does not get off to the best starts. It wasn't awful last year, though, by the way. I envisioned it being much worse last year, but last year, in the first 2 months of the season, they played a couple games in March. They were 32-27, basically in April and May. That's decent. They're 5 games over 500. They certainly didn't bury themselves. In 23, they were 29-27. June was the killer for them in 23. They went 9-15. Just like last year, July was the killer for the Mariners, 10-14. In 2022, in the first 2 months, they were 21-28. Notoriously, have kind of been off to a slow start, but he's been off to a slow start. And that's what they cannot afford this year for him. And I think for him too. And I like what they're doing of getting him more reps. I love the idea of him facing Andres Munoz a couple days in a row. That's great. I think all these top hitters should be facing their best pitchers. Why wouldn't you? You got one of the best, if not the best rotation in baseball. You've got the best, if not the best closer in baseball. I would have my top guys facing that all the time just to see it. And so I love it. I love what they're doing with that. I want to see more of that. I think that's a good strategy moving forward. We'll have more on that on the Hey, What the Puck at the end of the show. Let's get to Danny Kelly, who again is in Indianapolis at the Combine. Caught up with Danny earlier today. He wanted to go see and listen to John Schneider and the other GMs and coaches that are speaking at the Combine today. We get into Cam Ward. We get into how important the Combine is and other storylines surrounding the 2025 NFL Combine with Danny Kelly from The Ringer.
Drink Georgetown Tavern Beer. your new locally brewed domestic style lager. 4.2% alcohol. Cheap, good, local.
The Danny Kelly Show. It's world renowned, and it's
Yeah.
live from the NFL Combine. Danny Kelly joins us every week. We're talking NFL draft with Danny leading up to the draft. It's all brought to you by our appearances and us together. And Talking NFL Draft is brought to you by Georgetown's new beer, the Tavern Beer, easy drinking domestic style lager made with Pacific Northwest barley and Yakima Valley hops. They don't know anything about that down in Indianapolis. 4.2% brewed by our good friends at Georgetown Brewery, makers of Manny's Pale Ale and Bodie Zaffa IPA. We're going to talk what Danny's looking forward to this week in Indianapolis. How much do we put into this week when we discuss the NFL draft? Cam Ward is everywhere. I watched and listened to a good part of Danny's show, the NFL Combine preview show. God, there was a lot of, as the kids say, a lot of Cam Ward glazing going on.
I get it. I've been accused of glazing a lot lately. This is a new thing that kids like to say. If you compliment anybody, you're glazing them. First of all, pretty graphic if you think about it, in terms of what that's referencing. And maybe look it up. If you don't know what's referencing, go on urbandictionary.com and look that up. But yeah, it's you can't compliment anybody these days without getting accused of glazing them.
I know, and then I'll see these text threads between like my kids and their friends like, what's wrong with glazing someone? I mean, I don't get it. I'm like, oh my God, it's the stupidest thing in the world. Let's first start with this: the NFL Combine. Do you enjoy this? How much stock, Danny, do we put into the NFL Combine when it comes down to making the decision of who you're going to draft or not draft?
I would say it's one small piece of the puzzle. I don't think it's like a huge deal for the testing portion of it. I think it's generally speaking a pass-fail proposition for these guys. If you do not have NFL level athleticism, that's something that sometimes you find out here at the Combine, and that's like important to know. But I think it's just way too easy to overreact to someone's athletic testing. In fact, a buddy of mine, Scott Barrett at Fantasy Points, he does a study. And the speed at receiver and the 40 time of a receiver is actually negatively correlated to success in the NFL. The faster you are, the worse you are. In other words, generally speaking, just because I think teams overreact to the speed. If you run like a 4.3, they think, oh, we can turn this guy into a football player instead of just taking the good football players who run 4.5s. So you got to be careful about what you react to here. I think there are some tests like, offensive linemen in the short area, agility, the short shuttle, 3-cone, those are important things. Those actually do matter. But when you're talking about like 40 times and bench press and those types of things, generally speaking, I don't think that stuff really matters. Teams are being more and more, I think, cognizant of just on-field speed using the GPS tracking that they have now in college football. So I think big picture, the Combine is more for medical. Combine is more for interviews and kind of just getting to know these players like on a personal level. If they're weird, if they're terrible hangs, that might matter. I think you got to be careful about not overreacting to the Combine is the overarching point.
If you were in one of these rooms, what's the most inappropriate question that Danny Kelly would like to ask? Because remember, there's been some where, wasn't there a player a few years ago where a GM asked the player, hey, was your mom a stripper or a prostitute or a drug dealer or something like that? If you could just ask the most outlandish question, what would it be, Danny?
Well, I wouldn't be doing that, of course. I'm not a total asshole. I think the point of that question, not that I'm defending the question, was you trying to get a rise out of these kids. I think, and I think we've already heard a couple GMs talk this morning, and I think there was some insinuation from one of them, I can't remember who it was, that basically like, you're trying to like put them in a stressful situation and see how they react, see kind of like, how they're going to be able to perform under pressure and things like that. So like, I think that was probably the idea behind that question, or maybe the person just is a total asshole. I don't know. But yeah, you're trying to get a better picture of who these players are, who these people are, when there's a lot of stress and that type of situation. I don't know what I would ask. Honestly,
Here's the question I'd ask. You want to know the question I'd ask?
Yeah.
Are you a person that when they go to the grocery store, do you put the shopping cart back or do you leave it in the parking lot?
This is the pass fail proposition right here.
Because if they leave it in a parking lot, I'm out.
Yeah, I'm out. I'm with you on that one. I agree with that. That's a good call. That's a good litmus test for the type of character that you have. I'm always putting back the cart, even if it's really far away. I'm doing it. That's just who I am. The other thing, this has been my theory for a while here, and maybe this is part of the combine process for some teams. You can tell a lot about a person's character and about who the person is by the way they board an airplane, by the way they get on an airplane. Are they cutting in line? Are they waiting around? Are they, getting up before? This is also getting off the airplane. Are they getting up?
Getting off is more the indication.
Yeah. I think you can tell a lot about a person by the way that they fly on an airplane. So maybe that's a big part of it. I was actually on the plane with Pete Carroll on the way over here. Pete Carroll and John Schneider. Didn't seem like it was that awkward. They were talking for quite a while. So that's good. That's good to hear and good to see.
What do we think? Let me ask you that, because I did see that it was like a plane of who's who, right?
Yeah, I was on that plane. No big deal.
And, you headlined the who's who on that plane.
Totally.
I am wondering why everyone was on that flight out of Seattle. Why were I didn't get that, but
I don't know what was Pete doing up there. That was my question.
Well, I would assume he still has a home.
Does he still live up here?
Who knows? Danny, let me ask you this. It appeared, or at least it was tweeted, that John and Mike Macdonald were in first class, and Pete was up there. Was Pete not in first class? Was he back with you in the hell that is Coach?
Look, I'm gonna say it this way. Pete Carroll did a podcast with the Ringer Network a couple of years ago called Flying Coach. And I think he lives that life. He's a man of integrity, and so he was flying in Coach. He was everything I could tell about the way he boarded that plane. Great guy, gritty. Yeah.
Why would you choose to fly Coach if you can afford first class?
My theory is the Seahawks organization took up all the first class tickets and they bought them probably like a year ago. Because I didn't actually see Mike McDonald. Was he on our flight too? God, there's so many people on that flight.
That's at least was what people were saying. And then my follow-up to that is, what do we think? What do we think of people that cover the team, cover the Seahawks, or any NFL reporter who has said on said flight, getting up from their seat and videoing on their phone a private conversation between Pete Carroll, John Schneider, and Mike Macdonald? Thoughts?
Yeah. Again, not something I would do necessarily. I guess you are technically in a public forum.
Kind of douchey, though, Danny, right?
Again, it's not something I would do personally. But
just say it. Just say douchey.
I'm trying to stay neutral on this one. But yeah, I did notice, it was funny because I was on a tram with Pete Carroll at the airport. The little trams that go from the different places.
No one knows. No one knows. Hey, is this D gate? Is this N? Does anyone know if this is N or D?
Yeah, exactly. And he was just getting absolutely everyone was going up to him, talking to him.
Sure.
So I think he's just gets hounded 100% of the time he's in public, which is I think everybody was really polite about it. They were thanking him for the Super Bowl and everything. But yeah, it's one of those things. There's two types of people: the type of person who goes up to a celebrity and wants to take their picture with them, and the person who's like, I'm going to leave this person alone. And that's kind of more my thing. I was like, I'm not trying to go bug Pete Carroll at the airport.
I like to leave. Yeah, I'm a big leave people alone. It's not,
Me too.
Unless what I've done a couple of times is if you see someone you recognize, some famous person, whether it's an athlete, actor, musician. I do something really quick. I actually think I'm going to pat myself on the back. I think it's really well done. Okay, if I see Danny Kelly, if I see Danny Kelly in a bar, I just we're passing by, I just do a quick, love your work, keep it up, and walk off.
Yeah.
I
think
just
that's
think
great.
it's a perfect little, hey, everyone likes to be recognized for what they do. But I think a quick, like, hey, love what you do, keep it up, and then move on. And don't sit there and linger,
Don't be a lingerer. You can't be a lingerer.
Don't be a lingerer, Danny.
No,
Don't ever want to be accused of being a lingerer.
I saw people going up and giving him kind of like a fist bump, just saying thanks, for all that he brought to the city, and I think that was cool. And he was cool about it. He's probably very used to this and aware that it's going to happen. Yeah. But he was very gracious in all his interactions. He was like smiling and doing his thing.
Okay, why are you? Because I watched the Ringer. I watched the show.
You watched
the NFL.
It? Nice.
Yeah, I watched it, and you can watch it now on the Ringer, correct?
Yeah, it's called Video on Platform, baby. You can watch the Ringer show. You can watch all the Ringer shows on Spotify. We're also on YouTube if you prefer that, but Spotify has video now on platform, so that's really cool. I actually watched our show yesterday.
Love it.
Trying to get an idea of what it looked like. It was cool.
Really cool. And then what I really like about it, when you go on the desktop version of it, when you open it up, it kind of it puts a window in the bottom right corner, and then you can sit there and scroll and do other stuff. So
yeah, absolutely. It's very cool.
Really, really well done.
Check it out.
It's a brand new thing up at the Ringer, the NFL Combine preview show, the NFL draft show with Danny and his pals previewing the upcoming Combine. All right, a lot of glazing going on for Cam Ward with you. Good Lord.
Did you see the video of him working out with Schneider Sanders?
Yeah.
I thought it was great. You are just such a hater. You're such a hater.
Here's where I'm going to take you to task and your buddies at task. Remind me of the other two that are on the show. I'm sorry.
It's Danny Heifetz and Craig Horlbeck. Yeah.
Okay. I think it's Craig. Craig, I'm coming after you. Or maybe it was This no, it was you, I think. You did the iron sharpens iron. This is the type of leader I want on my football team, right?
Cliches. Yeah.
This guy's the worst leader of any football team in the world. I'm going to tell you that right now. This is such an act what he's doing. Right.
Okay.
Such an act.
You don't believe it. But you know what?
No.
We didn't really believe it when it came to Russell Wilson the whole time either.
Yeah, fair point. I'm a hater. I know I am.
Here's the deal. Here's the deal.
I'm the anti-glazer. What's the anti-glazer?
You're withholding your glaze.
Withholding glaze. Yes.
I don't know. We can workshop that. Here's the deal. I think you know what? Look, at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is, are you good? Yeah. Because you can be a really good leader and whatever. But if you're not good and you don't produce on the field, like, your teammates aren't going to rally behind you. So, this is all sort of part of the draft process. I was just a little bit pleasantly surprised at how hard he was going after Schneider in that video. I was like, this is the kind of guy I want to be leading my team. That being said, I don't know all the inside stories of everything that happened at Wazoo. So, obviously there's room for interpretation on that. But at the end of the day, he just needs to be good. If he's good, then the leadership will just be a bonus. And if he's bad, it won't matter either way.
It's something he's done before. They were at another camp before this one, and it was last year. Mm-hmm. It might have been the Manning camp. They were at another, and where he did the same thing to him. This has kind of been his thing with Shedeur Sanders.
Oh, okay.
He's kind of gone all in. I don't know what their relationship is like. It seems playful. It seems like just two guys talking shit.
Right.
But yeah, he's supremely confident, and he is most likely right. It appears he will be the number one pick. That's what it appears.
So it seems to be going in that direction. I think that's the consensus right now from everything you're hearing. The betting odds, I believe, have him being the first quarterback. So yeah, it's all looking like it. But and obviously, Schneider Sanders isn't really doing anything here at the Combine, so I don't know if there's a way that he can really boost his stock, at least from an outward point of view. So yeah, that's kind of where it's going right now.
Yeah. And then who do we expect the second quarterback to be? Do we expect it to be Sanders?
I do. There's Jackson Dart is getting a lot of hype of late, and I think there's more discussion that he could be involved in this as the second quarterback taken, or at least in the discussion. I think it's going to be Schneider Sanders though, pretty easily. And
what are his odds? You guys did the odds of Cam Ward, and I do pass this note
I don't
along
know.
to
That's a good
Danny.
question.
Pass this note to the other Danny from the show. As someone who's an avid gambler myself, thank you for explaining to me how gambling works with the -140. People who are in gambling probably have no idea until they watched and listened to that.
Where he's giving you the implied odds and everything like that. Yeah, I didn't know any of that stuff either, to be totally honest. But yeah, he likes to explain it, and for the casuals out there, I don't know
good.
actually. I'm curious what the odds are right now. I haven't looked at it lately.
They're not going to throw, right? Ward, Sanders, they're not throwing.
I highly doubt that the top two guys are going to throw. I think Dart. There's a chance Dart will throw, and the other guys, because they want to try and like prove themselves and create a little bit of buzz. Right now, so this is just for the number one overall pick. Cameron Ward is the top ranked one on FanDuel at -130. Then we have Shedeur Sanders is 8-1. Jackson Dart 45-1. So that gives you the idea. So 8-1 versus 45-1. Jackson Dart's much longer odds of being the top quarterback. So yeah.
What is the buzz around it right now? Have we gotten to that point yet? There can't be a buzz about a player yet because they haven't really done anything. But what is? No. Is there another buzz other than the one guy going after the GM of the Giants already? Just, hey, why'd you F up with Barkley, and do you regret it?
That was the first question of the first GM at the Combine, or at least that I saw, was literally Joe Shane comes out and immediately has to answer a Saquon Barkley question.
Good,
just hilarious. He handled it fine. The funny thing is, and this is like the ironic part of it, we always talk about this on our show, the Ringer Fantasy Football Show, which is now the Ringer NFL Draft Show.
You changed the name. You changed the name.
Yeah, we changed the name, which is just a galaxy brain thing that we're trying to do and seeing how it goes. But yeah, if Barkley had re-signed with the Giants, like the Giants would have won like maybe one more game or something like that. Like, it would have made that big of an impact, but it's just, we're just going to kill Joe Shane about it because of like the fan stuff and obviously how good he was for a division rival, all that stuff, Super Bowl champion. But at the end of the day, like, you kind of can't really blame Joe Shane for letting him go. I don't know. The way that he did it probably was not great, but I don't know. Running back is not going to have a huge impact on a team that's bad across the board. They're going to have a big impact on a team that's really good and ready to compete for a Super Bowl, I think. But yeah, the running backs, I don't think are going to like move the needle too much for a bad team that can't throw with a bad quarterback.
You're there all week. You're listening to the podiums. We got. Do we have Schneider today?
Schneider he's at 1 Eastern, so in a little while here, in an hour.
Okay.
We saw. Let's see here. I saw Vrabel, which was interesting.
Okay.
He had some interesting stuff to say. Let's see here. Fontenot for the Falcons had his little presser, and he said that they're planning on paying Kirk Cousins' bonus, which I think is interesting.
He's not going to be on the team. I just love when these guys get up there and they're, he's going to be right now. He's going to be our backup. No, he's not. He's not going to be your backup.
Yeah, it's just he'll be on the team for as long as they can, until they can find something to kind of do with him. Liam Cohen from the Jags went to his presser. He was definitely pretty interesting. I know. Yeah. Did
anybody ask him about that?
I don't know. They didn't. I was actually shocked that nobody asked him to recreate that moment. But yeah, he was fine. He was good. He had some interesting things to say. I thought somebody asked him about doing the VR thing. Well, how much do you know about doing like the quarterbacks, how they do like the virtual reality headset and everything?
I mean, I use VR I use VR for something else, Danny.
That's what your Oculus is for?
Yeah.
Yeah. For when you're looking to glaze, a player or whatever.
That's right. Okay, now let me ask you about Schneider. What do you want to get from Schneider? What is it that you're looking forward to unearthing from John Schneider when he speaks later today? And we're recording. This is on a Tuesday, by the way. Everyone knows this. So what are you expecting to hear? What do you want to hear?
First and foremost, he's going to quote some Chris Farley movie. That's the over-under on Chris Farley quotes in his press conference. I'm going to be looking forward to that. I actually appreciate that a lot because I love his like genre of movies is exactly what I grew up on. The younger kids won't get it. You know, they don't watch Tommy Boy. They don't watch Black Sheep, things of that nature. But realistically, like I'm curious to see what he says about the offensive line because I think he's starting to get really annoyed that people keep asking about the offensive line. You know, there was like a quote he had a couple like earlier this year about how they're like overpaid in free agency, and he's kind of had to like defend that. I think people are just kind of sick of like the excuses and just want a good offensive line. And I think he's annoyed with that because probably from his point of view, he's trying, you know, but I'm trying, Jennifer, to build a good offensive line. So yeah, I think that'll be interesting. Obviously, it'll be interesting to hear what he says about Geno Smith. You know, they've just been so hot and cold about it.
What's with the? Hey, can you listen? We're the same age, but you understand pop culture and what's going on better than anyone, better than me. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
What is going on with Geno? What's the whole cryptic tweets? I freaking hate cryptic tweets. What is he doing?
Has he been doing those? I got to look this up now.
Yes, he's doing he's posting stuff of Ron DeSantis and like in Florida about not paying property taxes. And now he's got one. He posted yesterday about, you know, the famous LeBron gets asked a question in a press conference he didn't like. You remember he's wearing a suit in his bag and he walks out.
No, I don't
that
know
one. Okay, well, just you can go look at it. So he walks out, and then he does that. Then he reposts something from a few days ago, retweeted, normalize praying before making a decision. You know, I don't know.
Yeah, there's a cryptic stuff here. I'm cycling through his Twitter account here. A lot of stuff I don't know about.
The Ron DeSantis one is an all-timer. I mean,
this is like about tax money. This is like taxes, property.
Ending property taxes statewide. So he
retweeted
it.
The vast majority of his tweets are like, you know, work hard, like put God first, put team first, and also property taxes can fuck off. That's just like bizarre.
He's just, I don't know.
I don't know what this is. Wish I had an answer for you with the property taxes thing. Maybe he's trying to say he wants to live somewhere that doesn't have property taxes. You know, that's how you could suppose interpret that.
Yeah.
I don't know where that is, but yeah.
All right, what do you guys got planned this week for again? It's the brand new NFL Draft Show, and they've got
Ringer NFL Draft Show. Yeah,
yes, and they got the Combine preview that's up right now. A lot of glazing with Cam Ward.
We're just going to look to be glazing all these players. Yep.
Genty. Hey, I didn't get to maybe the end of it. The phone down moments. What are the phone down moments? You want to preview?
That was basically like what are the things you're most looking forward to watching in this combine? And obviously, like this was a few days ago, so this has changed. But I was like, anything Ashton Genty does, I'm going to be like paying attention very closely. It sounds like he's not going to do anything, unfortunately. Not going to be testing. I will go to his press conference to hear what he has to say. But he's not testing. I'm very excited to see Ted McMillan and T-Mac and see what he can do this week. I think there's some concern that he's not like the most explosive athlete in the world. But with him, it's just I don't care. Like he's just such a good player. I don't care if he runs a 4.5. This is exactly what we talked about earlier in the show, where a lot of times teams will overrate athleticism and total speed and explosiveness and just kind of like gloss over the fact that he's just like a really, really good football player. So I'm excited about that. There's some really, really massive dudes in this defensive line draft class. Kenneth Grant, Deone Walker, Alfred Collins. These are all 6'3", 6'4", 225 to 250. Just excited to kind of see, like, get a real look at them in person. I think there's a joke on our show where we're like NFL players. They're not that big. Like we saw Kirk Cousins. He's like smaller than me. I'm bigger than Kirk Cousins. How is he out and playing in the NFL? But then you see guys like on the defensive area, like, holy crap, I would be ripped in half if I was on an NFL field. there's an old movie, Not Another Teen Movie. Did you ever see that back in the day? It was like from like the late aughts or early aughts.
I know the title, but I can't remember. I don't think I've seen it.
It just basically spoofs all the sports movies, all the teen movies from that era. And I think they were spoofing like Friday Night Lights and be like, get this this inspirational kid out there, and he literally gets cut in half on the field. Like that would be like what would happen if I go up against Kenneth Grant, this Michigan defensive tackle. He would rip me in half. So yeah, interested in that. Tez Johnson, the Oregon receiver, who he went to the Senior Bowl, and he weighed in at 156 pounds. So this is the other end of the spectrum. Get an idea of how tiny he is. Things like that. I do think it's fun to be at the combine because you get to see these players in real life and kind of get an idea of, like how big they are. How last year we were talking about Caleb Williams has a huge badonkadonk, powerhouse. So there's that. I don't know if that really matters. I think it does. I think it does matter long term. Just get a look at his, rotund powerhouse there. So things like that.
I can't wait for later this week in the NFL Draft Show, The Ringer, to find out whose ass looked the best at the combine.
Yeah, I mean that's something you got to pay attention to. But really, what we're going to be doing this week is, I think tomorrow we're doing the Obama anger translator thing. It's like a bit from Key and Peele, where he says something really like politic, and then you got the guy behind him that like translates what he really means. So we're doing that with all the GM talk, because everything is just like coach speak and whatever. They don't say anything, but here's what they really mean. So we're going to do that. And then I think on Thursday, just talk about everything else that we've seen at the combine, everything else going on. The salary shot up like 20-something million, which is interesting. It has wide ranging effects for free agency, things of that nature. So, yeah, kind of just anything that we're seeing in here at the combine.
Okay, check it out, the NFL Draft Show with Danny Kelly and his compadres. It's up at the Ringer, ringer.com. You can check it out. Also, when it's on Spotify now, you can toggle back and forth between the audio and the video. And it's still up if you like YouTube. It's still up on YouTube. And, of course, you can find the Ringer podcast, the NFL Draft Show podcast, up on Spotify, wherever you find your podcast. All right. Appreciate it, Danny. Thank you so much. We will talk to you next week. Happy Combine Week to you.
You too. Appreciate it.
All right, there he is, Danny Kelly. Danny Kelly Show. And again, brought to you by Georgetown's new Tavern Beer, easy drinking domestic style lager made with Pacific Northwest barley and Yakima Valley hops, brewed by our good friends at Georgetown Brewery, makers of Manny's Pale Ale and Bodhisattva IPA. Find the Danny Kelly podcast up on YouTube. When you're there, please subscribe to the show. Also, find it on your favorite podcast platform, Apple, Spotify, wherever you find your podcasts. And, of course, always up at pucksports.com. Big thanks to, again, Danny Kelly from The Ringer. Catching up with him earlier today. He had a chance to go and watch the podium with John Schneider and other GMs there in the NFL at the Combine. Speaking of what John Schneider said today, real quick, on Geno Smith, he said that he will meet with Geno Smith's agents this week to begin talks on extension. Said there is no deadline, but Smith is, quote, our guy. Also said that they've had talks with Ernest Jones on a new deal, and that says the team will meet with Tyler Lockett's agents. Asked if he'd anticipate Lockett being back, said, I don't know. We'll see how that conversation goes. That is via Bobby Condotta. Bob Condotta from the Seattle Times, B. Condotta, there on Twitter. Follow him for all the very latest on what's going on at the Combine. All right, let's talk some college football. We got some news because this guy does not stop working, and he doesn't stop working for you, the American people. John Canzano, the John Canzano Show, brought to you by Zeke's Pizza. Check out all his work at johncanzano.com. Check out the radio show that's burning up the airwaves, all right, at the Bald-Faced Truth there in Portland, 7:50 the game, 3 to 6 p.m. He joins us from the Puck Sports Studios built by Limbach Lumber. John, how are you? You ever cover the NFL Combine back in the day?
Not the Combine. No, I covered the NFL for one season. I managed to not be at the Combine, thankfully, and I had a good time covering that league. Saw some things.
Okay.
Covered the Raiders, covered the Niners. Got to spend some time with Bill Walsh. It was back in that era. He was a consultant with the Niners. It was kind of cool. Raiders went to the Super Bowl that year. It was interesting.
Not bad. All right. So coming up, we're going to talk about the current state of the Pac-12, some comments. We're going to play some comments from the San Diego State AD that's talking about the TV deal and partners, future of spring games. You're doing a series of the new look Pac-12. You spent some time at Boise that I want to get you caught up on. Get your thoughts on it. Also, gambling in college sports. And you wrote a great piece about your time spent at Fresno State. However, I do want to start with a piece that you just came out with probably, 30 minutes or so ago. The grant of rights deal that has been signed by the new Pac-12 conference members has some unique language in it when it concerns itself with Washington State and Oregon State. Tell our viewers what this new grant of rights deal has provided both those schools.
Well, these grant of rights deals, provide the conference. Really, all the members say to the conference, hey, we're signing this grant of rights. You now have the ability to go out and sell our media rights. We're in your hands. But they're often interesting because, as we have learned in the last couple of years, they include some interesting provisions about revenue sharing and voting and how if someone wants to leave the conference, what's it going to cost you, all that stuff. So I got in the weeds on that and looked at it, and something jumped out at me that there's some language in there that says Oregon State and Washington State hold the final approval. That's the language. Final approval on media rights deals, expansion decisions, and Pac-12 enterprises, among other things. But that, it basically says that Oregon State and Washington State, like everybody else, can vote on this stuff. And I think it was 3/4 vote to get the media rights deal done, 3/4 of the new members. So the 8 members voting, you'd need 6 of 8. But Oregon State and Washington State have to be among those voting yes. Otherwise, they can hold up a deal. So it gives them some unique authority. Now, I don't read this, and nor does anybody, I talk to a lot of people across the conference at Oregon State and Washington State and at other places who say they don't expect the Beavers and the Cougars to act like they're up on the Imperial Palace, giving their authority on these decisions. They just are granting sort of Oregon State and Washington State some extra power here because Oregon State and Washington State took the risk. They were left behind by the Pac-12. They filed that lawsuit. They invested their dollars in fighting the 10 departing schools. They salvaged the brand of the conference. As Teresa Gold said, hey, if anyone deserves a drink, it's the Pac-12, right? Remember at that media event last summer in Vegas. And so it's a nod to Oregon State, Washington State, and just basically gives them a thumbs up, thumbs down vote. But it tells me that in the room, Oregon State and Washington State's opinion about who you're adding, whether it's a geography decision or if it's Memphis, Tulane, South Florida, is it at one of the Texas schools? Is it back to UNLV? Tells me that Oregon State and Washington State and their voice matter in this more than anybody else, matter a little more. And again, it's, they have to act reasonably. It has that language in there. But I thought that was very interesting, Puck, that those 2 legacy schools have got sort of the final right of approval, the final nod on all this stuff.
So give me just the final nod of approval. When it comes down, the most important key things are what? The media deal, expansion, and what? Are those just the 2 main ones? Media
deal, expansion, and then what happens with Pac-12 enterprises? They're going to share the revenue equally among all 12 schools. But if decisions are made as to, Pac-12 enterprises, it sounded to me, and you're going to play the comments from J.D. Wicker later, the San Diego State AD, sounded to me like Pac-12 enterprises is involved in this, at least from a production standpoint, because Wicker was talking about distribution of other sports. That means that I think the Pac-12 is going to produce content involving other sports, like potentially baseball, softball, volleyball, other things. So it could be women's basketball, who knows? So, as it pertains to decisions like, very early on, I was told that there wasn't unity in the room when the schools were out talking to Memphis and Tulane initially. There wasn't 100% unity in that room over whether the Pac-12 should extend the geography of the footprint and go after schools and look eastward and all that stuff that was talked about early on. They eventually retracted and went after Gonzaga. But it tells me, like, if Washington State and Oregon State aren't okay traveling and adding schools that are outside the footprint, that vote's going to be pretty loud in that room, because they could ultimately hold up the deal at the end and be like, hold on, we're not good with this. This isn't in the spirit of what we started out to do. And they have retained that right of authority under the grant of rights.
Great reporting here by John. And again, just go to johncanzano.com. Just reading from the latest article about the final approval in the grant of rights deal given to Oregon State and Washington State. Again, documents obtained by John at johncanzano.com. And again, outlines the new world of Pac-12's governance. The final approval isn't meant, as John said here and wrote, isn't meant to position the Beavs and the Cougs as two-headed czars of the conference. They're expected to act reasonably. And when I read this and I was thinking about, what if back in the day Larry Scott had given this to USC and who? Is it UCLA?
Yeah.
I guess. And we're probably not in this position that we are in now.
No. And by the way, this isn't just for this decision. This extends for the 5-year agreement. So inside of the 5-year agreement, if there are media rights decisions, if there are expansion decisions, Oregon State and Washington State have that final vote. Now, I continue to be told, and that there's a lot of unity in that room, of course, but because they're all brand new to each other and they're all moving in the same direction and rooting for each other. But I continue to be told that no one expects them to kind of be unreasonable with it. But Oregon State and Washington State in the 11th hour are going to get that final nod. And I think that's a really important distinction. I think it gives them, it dignifies the fight that they encountered, and going in front of Judge Leiby and taking on the 10 schools and everybody telling them they should just go away, and they didn't go away. It dignifies all of that work by saying to them, hey, you were the caretaker of this thing. You invested more time, effort, and resources in this. You get the final vote.
I think one thing that stood out to me in your reporting and what you looked at in the grant of rights is that the revenue sharing model that is now going to be performance-based. Schools that earn a berth in the college football playoff or the NCAA tournament now going to keep 50% of the net revenue. The other 50% will be split evenly among the other members. That seems very important to me.
Yeah. And this, look, the SEC and the Big Ten don't do this because the schools don't have leverage, right? The schools can't say, we're going to leave for the AFC West. Nobody, they can't say we're earning all the money. So they split everything equally. Oregon making the playoff, Ohio State winning the national championship. Rutgers gets a share of that. Northwestern gets a share of that. They have to split that evenly. The Pac-12 is going to be different. The ACC has adopted a similar model where if you go to the playoff, Boise State, you're getting 50% of that net revenue. So if you earn $4 million or $8 million or $12 million, you're going to take half of that right off the table. You eat what you kill, so to speak. I had one AD say that. And same goes for the NCAA men's and women's tournaments. And I think it's good because that incentivized Gonzaga. It incentivized Boise State to come into the fold going, hey, we weren't getting this deal in our old conference. We now are going to get to keep more of what we earn. That makes sense. But it also places a lot of pressure on the other schools that aren't investing in basketball and football. Like if you want to go earn money, extra money in the NCAA tournament, invest in your program, hire a better coach, have better resources, invest in your home arena. So it really does create sort of that secondary investment motivation for everybody else.
I want to go back to what you kind of touched on in the beginning. Why was this important for Washington State and Oregon State to have this language in this?
I think because, if you really look at them and you understand the brands of those two schools and the fan bases, they have often felt marginalized. They've often felt left behind. They've been the and one when they're invited anywhere with the old world Pac-12. And because of their media markets, not their success or lack of success in sports, they got left behind. If Oregon State is located in Southern California, it's in the Big Ten right now, and same for Washington State. And so I think it was an added measure of protection for schools that had felt like, hey, we've fought for this. They were the ones in that courtroom. I was in that courtroom in Whitman County. They were in front of Judge Leiby. It was Oregon State, Washington State. There was nobody else with them. And so as they brought Boise State and Gonzaga and San Diego State and everybody else into the fold here, I think they wanted to be able to say, hey, no matter how big you are and how important you are to us, we still want to make sure that this party is going to go how we want it to go. So we're going to hold the right of refusal on hiring the DJ and the caterer and everything else. And, I think there's a little bit of dignity in that for those two schools. And it feels appropriate given the, they made an investment that was larger than the others. They own Pac-12 Enterprises together. They're giving away part of that in exchange for these other teams coming into the fold. So I think it was just their way of saying, we're not going to let the Mountain West 5 and Gonzaga run away with the conference that we saved.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Protect your own.
Yeah.
They should do that. They absolutely should do that. They have been pushed down for many, many years, and it's good for both of those schools to now kind of push themselves up. All right, you mentioned it a couple times. San Diego State, the AD, J.D. Wicker, had some comments, I think, speaking to season ticket holders at an event. And basically it's like, we got the media rights deal's coming. It's coming this month, and all the partners. I want to play this for our viewers of what the AD, San Diego State AD, J.D. Wicker, had to say. Oh.
They're entities that you're familiar with, that you would recognize. We're going to get great exposure, and the really good thing is we're going to get more exposure. It's not just going to be football and men's basketball, but it's going to be all of our sports are going to have the opportunity for this increased exposure. It's going to be increased revenue, which is a big thing for us. So that's really the next big piece. Once we know that, then we can go recruit that 8th football playing member. We need one more football playing member that has all of its sports to meet FBS rules or NCAA FBS rules. And then after that, we'll figure out if we're adding 1, 2, or 3 more schools, and whether they're coming in all of their sports. They might be coming in some of their sports.
So that's the gist of it. The biggest thing, sorry for the video cutting out in the beginning, was there a woman doing exercise in the front? She was kind of waving her arms.
Yeah.
Looked like she was doing
San Diego, baby.
All right. So what did you make of J.D. Wicker's comments there?
Well, he didn't say anything we haven't talked about. He didn't say anything that I hadn't reported, and I gave you March 20th as my deadline. He's saying March 30th. And so for me as the reporter who has, a duty to your viewers and my readers, I felt good about everything he was saying, because I was like, okay, this meshes. He's not saying anything that surprised me there. I also think that he's excited. You can tell he's in front of his stakeholders. These are his season ticket holders. And an AD's job, part of an AD's job, is to sell, sell, sell. That said, the media consultants probably weren't happy that he's out there talking about it. There's still some negotiating going on. Pac-12, I was later told by people at the Pac-12 offices that there was a little bit of a groan there because they didn't give him a green light to go out and talk about this stuff. He was kind of freelancing, and that happens. He's probably not aware. Somebody's filming it. It's going to social media. He should be.
He's focused on the girl working out in the beginning.
Yeah, he's selling. I mean, he's selling, and frankly, in his defense, he's not saying anything we're not saying, right? It's just now we have somebody who's in the room saying it and affirming it, right? So the bigger thing was they had a meeting yesterday. The ADs get on these meetings twice a week. It's a conference call. And yesterday in the meeting, he was not called out. He was not scolded. He didn't get his hand slapped directly. But they did talk about talking points and how important it is to not be out talking out of school. And this is what we're to stick to. This is what our consultant says we need to be saying to help them do their job. And I can tell you the other ADs in the room thought, this is for JD because he had been out talking. I like it because I like sunshine. I want to know what's going on. But if I'm the media consultant, I'm trying to play poker back there. This does create a little bit of pressure on the consultant to get a deal done. And I think what Octagon's got to do now is it's got to say, hey, end of March is not our deadline. We can go on forever. You have to play that way when you're trying to negotiate things. But liked what he said. He talks about the order of operations. We've talked about that. It's going to be media rights first. Then it's going to be expansion. It'll be somewhere between 1 and 3 schools. We've talked about that. He didn't mention any specifically. We have talked specifics. But the other thing that he touched on was he said familiar partners. And he said this is going to be good for all sports, not just football. So it tells me that somebody involved in this media deal, one of the entities, is probably agreed to take content that is produced by Pac-12 Enterprises on other sports and distribute it. So you may be able to see whether that ends up being some kind of streaming entity where you can watch other Pac-12 sports, or whether that is specific to one sport. We don't know. The grant of rights does require the schools to carry football, men's basketball, women's basketball, and volleyball. So it's evident that those are rights that they were interested in selling, right? Because they want to do that. But this could involve Oregon State baseball. This could involve San Diego State's other sports. Who knows? But it tells me familiar. Is it CBS Sports? Is it Fox? Because that sounds a lot like the old Mountain West partners and some of the stuff they did there with the added element of the Pac-12 Enterprises on top of it. Is it TNT, who came up short in the basketball deal? Are they coming in as a basketball partner? I think there's a lot of swirling things out there, and JD got me thinking, but I don't blame him for talking. Others are mad at him for talking, but I kind of like when people involved, tell the truth.
What about ESPN? You think they're
Possible.
involved?
I think possible. I don't see like a huge appetite for ESPN, like to take the whole thing or to take all the football, but it's possible they could take a game, right? Or they could take a game every week, or, if you're the Pac-12, what you really need, because these other conferences like Big Ten has Fox, ESPN, SEC, ACC, you need a real partner who's going to bang that drum for you, who's going to make you the most important thing. So I'm less into ESPN than some others have said, because everyone says, oh, the glow of ESPN. But ESPN already has its priorities lined up. If I'm the Pac-12, I want to be somebody's most important thing, or I want to be part of something new if it's TNT carrying, college basketball, because it is shaping up to be a really good college basketball conference.
I would say this, whoever it is, that there's just as you know, a real golden opportunity, especially in that late TV window, because that was the thing that was really depressing this year, was not having Pac-12 after dark. That was just not a thing this year in college football. There was just games ending at 6 o'clock, 7, and then it's over. And you're like, well, wait a minute, where's the 7 o'clock window games that we've all grown accustomed to? I know we like to complain about them when you're traveling to them, but when you're not traveling to them, you like to sit down with a cocktail or two, your feet up on the couch, watching, games until 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, or you're talking to your family. And John, no one wants that. No one wants to be talking to their family. They want to be watching football.
Well, it's possible that Pac-12 After Dark could be a standalone product that they sell to somebody.
Right.
But I think the bulk of this is going to go to one partner, and there may be some scheduling alliances. TNT's taken some Big East games in basketball in the next 6 years. Could there be some crossover games with the Pac-12 that TNT is interested in? I think there's some tentacles to this thing, and clearly J.D. Wicker at San Diego State is excited about this, and he's selling it to his fans, and you can tell that he feels good about it. It wasn't a guy getting out over his skis, and so as irked as some people are, as agitated as people got about him, oh, he's talking, oh, this is terrible, this reminds me of George Kliavkoff coming out. It's not at all the same. I mean, Kliavkoff had that circle of trust. He essentially was the only one, along with his media consultant, he was the only one who knew what was going on. And that's why I think the messaging was super murky. This is coming to me from all angles. I was hearing, hey, right around the start of March Madness, we've been talking about that for months. I'm also, I can tell you this, like Memphis, Tulane, South Florida, University of Texas, San Antonio, Texas State, Rice, UNLV, Nevada. I feel like that's the stable, Puck. It's 1 to 3 of those schools. Now, where they end up will, I think, largely determine on, who Oregon State, Washington State, and the rest of that conference want in there and what they're willing to pay for them and who's willing to move. But, I see Texas State as a real fallback down that list. People have talked about it high on that list. I think it's down that list. I think if they end up at Texas State, it was because they said, hey, you know what, we're going to punt and we're just going to take one and it'll be Texas State. But I think they're going to try to take a big swing first. Why wouldn't you?
How much does I don't know if there's any responsibility or reaction does the Pac-12 have now? I mean, they haven't formed this new conference. It's not happening for another year until 26, but they are welcoming a new school in Fresno State. What's their position right now? If people don't know, there's an ongoing NCAA and now investigation into Fresno State about gambling, point shaving, and just the gambling being improper with that. Where does the conference stand with that? What do you think the future is there with Fresno State? Does it hurt them going into the Pac-12? You wrote a great story about covering Fresno State back in the day when you worked at the Fresno Bee, just dealing with this. Where are we at right now with that athletic department and the
Yeah, let's go back to 97 real quick. I mean, there was point shaving allegations. The FBI investigated. There was a grand jury that came in. No charges were filed. Nothing ever came of it other than a lot of people pointing to like some local gamblers and some small town activity and some real suspicious play that happened on the court. Like 3 minutes to go in a game, they blew a double-digit lead to not cover a spread. Guy who's a great free throw shooter, 80% shooter, misses 3 of 4 free throws down the stretch. He airballs one of them. It raised a lot of questions, a lot of suspicion. When the Mountain West Conference was formed, it did not take initially Fresno State. I am told by the WAC commissioner, Carl Benson, that the reason the Mountain West did not include Fresno State initially was the point shaving investigation. They were skittish about it. And Fresno State eventually got in, but it does show you that these conferences care. They don't want that drama. They don't want that cloud. Do you not have your act together? There's questions there. But Fresno State's already signed a grant of rights with the Pac-12. There's about 40 million reasons why they can't undo it. There's like a $40 million withdrawal clause in there. And I think the Pac-12, although it's disappointed in hearing what's going on at Fresno State, I think the Pac-12 just is watching to see how Fresno State handles this. Garrett Classy, the athletic director there, he did not hire the current men's coach, who's, by the way, 5-23. Vance Wahlberg is 5-23 in addition to this going on. They can't fire him for cause, they say, based on, the investigation so far, but 5-23 is a pretty good cause for me. I'm looking at that going, I think the Pac-12 is going to watch Fresno State and go, okay, are you acting like you belong in the Pac-12? Let's see how you act. I think that's where they are right now, but there's nothing they can do about this investigation or not inviting Fresno State. I think the Bulldogs are probably fortunate that this came out now and not a year ago, because maybe they aren't included if it happens before.
What do you think in your story about Fresno State? You have a piece in there, Michael Baumgartner, who's a representative in our state out of Spokane, Washington State graduate, who wants to introduce a bill on Capitol Hill. He wants to ban prop bets on NCAA athletics. How much legs does this have? And what do you think that the NCAA and I guess politicians, what steps do they need to take? Because we are hearing more stories about this, about NCAA and gambling and point shaving. Sports Illustrated's got a story coming out now about Jonte Porter and the tentacles of that. That issue that happened in the NBA with the tentacles now reaching into the NCAA with college basketball. What steps do you think they should and will take?
Yeah, I think Baumgartner told me he's going to introduce, if he hasn't already, some legislation that would ban prop bets on college games nationally, federal legislation. So I think he's going to get a lot of support there. I think he's even going to get support from some of the gambling lobbyists out there who are afraid that what would happen is you roll it back altogether, right? They may be willing to say, hey, no, prop bets are the problem, right? Everybody's saying, prop bets are the problem. There will always be a problem. If you invite gambling into the room, you are inviting problems. You are leaving the chicken coop door open. And so this story by Sports Illustrated is fascinating to me because it's got, some bad actors who have their tentacles, their fingers on a bunch of different elements, college sports, the NBA, it cuts across. The prop bets are problematic because it's easy for a player to directly control whether they get a rebound or score a point or are available that game. I've got a bad ankle, I need to sit. So there's a temptation there that I think you will also see some support for that, because I think in the state of Oregon you can't bet on a college game, you can't bet on the outcome of a college game, but some of the prop bets for some of the apps that are available outside of Oregon allow you to bet on games inside the state of Oregon. So it depends on, what provider you're with. So there's just a lot of murkiness there, and the anti-gambling, protagonists there are are winning this week because
Sure.
everybody's going, man, this is really bad. And this isn't good for the game. It's not good for the integrity of the games. And you don't want this going on in college athletics or the NBA.
John, you're doing a series of the New World Pac-12, stopping by the schools that will be joining the new Pac-12 conference. Part one of that series was a stop in Boise, Idaho, to check out Boise State University. What was your takeaway from your visit with the Broncos?
Yeah, part of my thing is I just, there's some new schools here, and we not all of us know these places. I've been to Boise, but, a lot of my readers had never been to Boise. They don't understand the fan base, the history of the school, what made it go. And so, I jumped on a plane, and I'm doing this with all the New World Pac-12 schools. The whole series will be at johncanzano.com, but it's a chance to immerse in a campus for a couple of days and talk to the schools and talk to the coaches and talk to athletes and talk to fans and business owners. I talked to the Shakespeare Festival in Boise. I talked to, people who are running a cafe. It's just interesting to get their viewpoint on what makes Boise State. And I'm going to do this with all the new schools. Spokane will be next and Gonzaga. But it was fascinating to me because, you look at the history of Boise State and how it became Boise State. It was a community college that then became a Division II school that rose to become an FCS school. And then suddenly they're in the playoff. And by standards of college athletics, that didn't happen, over 70 years. That happened almost overnight by college standards, right? It's a lot like Florida State and what happened in Tallahassee. Goes from a community college into competing for a national championship. How did that happen? And one of the things that got me was, the factors that make that happen are Boise State is the pro sports team in town. There's no competition from the NFL, Major League Baseball, the NBA, or hockey. It's evident when you get there. It's bleed blue. It's what's next. It's go Broncos. So they have undying support, no competition, people who are immensely proud of what has happened and the growth at Boise State, where that stadium started, where it is now. There's a crane over the north end zone, $65 million renovation going on just on the north end zone. Next, they'll pivot and do the other side of the stadium. There's just a lot of pride there, and all the sponsorship, all the corporate dollars, what little there are in Boise, all pointed in the same direction. Second thing you had all this continuity of coaching from Dan Hawkins and Pokey, go back to Pokey Allen back in the day, all the way to Chris Peterson and now to Spencer Danielson. You've got all of this synergy and continuity that of guys who get it, coaches who get it, administrators who get it, who want to go for it, who aren't afraid of risk. And that sort of lends to the third thing. Friday night comes along. ESPN has contracts with the SEC, the Big Ten, others, Pac-12. They're not allowed to play Friday night games at that time. They said to the WAC, hey, will you play a Friday night game? Can you find a team that would be willing to do it? We want to try putting a game on Friday nights against high school football. Yeah. Boise State goes, we'll do it. Hand raise. They decide they're going to do it, and they get $100,000 bonus for every game they play on a Friday night. They like that. But they go further, and this goes to the community support and all that synergy. They turn to high school football in the state, and they say, look, could you move your games to Thursdays and Saturdays? We want to play on Friday night, and we don't want to cannibalize the high school out of respect for you guys. And by the way, we'll open our stadium. You can play your home games throughout the season inside of at Bronco Stadium. And so the high schools in the area played Thursdays and Saturdays. Everybody's on board with it. I think it's fascinating to kind of look at that and a whole bunch more that I wrote about, but to look at that and you go, oh, that's how they became Boise State. Like a lot of places don't have that synergy, don't have that. Their places are afraid of risk. They're afraid to take a leap. Boise State, not afraid to risk.
I love it. It's a great series. Go check it out. JohnCanzano.com. Again, part one of a series that's going to include John visiting all of the Pac-12 schools, the new World Pac-12, JohnCanzano.com. Also, check out the latest story that just came out this morning about Oregon State, Washington State, as we let off the top of the show with it, having the final say there of all decisions on expansion media deals, Pac-12 enterprises. They're in the new grant of rights deal that they signed. That John was able to obtain, and again, wrote about it up at johncanzano.com. All right, stop working so hard, all right?
All right.
You're making everybody look bad.
You got to go to the gym. That's where I need to go.
Hey, go to the gym. What is it, leg day?
It's got to be big chest day.
Yeah, it is.
Can you go with me? You just yell out big chest while I'm working out.
That's what I'm going to do. Big chest. You have
bring a jug. Bring one of the jugs of water.
How big is the size of the water jug that you bring?
I drink out of the faucet, man.
Yeah, you do.
Shows me. Yeah. Like a
All right,
dog
thanks,
at a
John.
park.
Great
All right,
work.
Man. Take care.
There he is, John Canzano. JohnCanzano.com. Again, brought to you by Zeke's Pizza, homegrown in the Northwest, Zeke'sPizza.com. John Canzano, BFT on Twitter, plus the Bald Face Truth Radio in Portland, Oregon, 750 The Game, 3 to 6 every single day. Joins us inside the Puck Sports Studios built by Limbeck Lumber. Full episode of John up on YouTube later. When you're there, please subscribe to the old channel. Also, we'll separate it. We separate up there on YouTube there for John. And then the audio version will be a part of the full daily puck drop there on Apple, Spotify, wherever you find your podcast. Great stuff there from John again. Obtained there. The only place that had the grant of rights deal that John has that, again, just to recap, Washington State and Oregon State will have final say. They're on Pac-12 expansion, also the media rights deal, and also the distribution and what they do with Pac-12 enterprises. And that's big news in terms of the health of both universities and the say that they have in the conference. And again, as we said in the beginning of the show, had this been something that was in place under Larry Scott and the previous regime in the Pac-12, we're probably not in this situation. The Pac-12 was probably still whole with all the original members. Had they done something similar back in the day with the two LA schools, which again was the ripple effect, right? Them leaving was the ripple effect that allowed all the other schools to move on. But good for Washington State and Oregon State to have that language in there and that new grant of rights deal there with the Pac-12. Well-deserved for those two schools. All right, coming up, before we wrap it up with Hey, What the Puck, we'll get back into Julio real quick. A countdown to the NFL draft. Our series with Dane Brugler from The Athletic. 7 shows leading up into the NFL draft. The first podcast was released last week with Dane Brugler from The Athletic, of course, author of The Beast. We'll have new episodes coming out on Mondays. If you want to watch or listen to the full podcast, sign up to be a Pucks Posse member, $5 a month. You can also follow Dane on Twitter at DP Brugler and check out all of his work up at theathletic.com. Now, to get a taste of what you get for your $5, we released the episode last week, the video, which is up on YouTube, and the audio, which is up on patreon.com/pucksports. Just go to pucksports.com on the webpage. You click the top link at the top of the webpage. It's going to take you right there. And we released it just to give everyone a taste what they get for $5. So it's about 30 plus minutes of Dane and I breaking down just his initial thoughts on the upcoming 25 draft. Episode 2 will come out next week. Also, when you're up there on the Patreon site, we did release as well our series so far, 3 episodes with Ryan Divish covering the Mariners. And again, we are making the Divish series this year, of the Divish podcast this year for Pucks Posse members, the full show. Every week, though, if you don't want to pay, you still get 20 minutes of it free, but the full show will be for Pucks Posse members. And again, just $5 a month. Also, if you can sign up for a year. If you have any financial issues, problems, let me know. I certainly want to take care of everyone who has been so good to us here for almost a year. So just send me an email, puck@pucksports.com. But if you want to catch up on the last 3 shows that we've done with Divish, they are available to you right now. And we'll record another one tomorrow with Divish, which will, again, just be for Pucks Posse members. And as I mentioned before, coming up the week of opening day, which is what, March 27th, right? We will have a brand new show starting that week that will come out on Monday mornings, and will be available to Pucks Posse members, and it is going to be a real doozy. I'm so I giddy of how excited I am for this show to start. Hey, real quick, I want to pass this along. You can support. You don't have to support, but I'm all Ballard, right? All Ballard High School. And the Ballard High School Foundation, they've got their 6th annual Running for the Beavers 5K fun run and /walk. It's coming up Saturday, March 22nd. It's coming up at Golden Gardens. You can visit the website to sign up. It's runningofthebeavers5k.com. Runningofthebeavers5k.com. I'll say it again. Running of the Beavers 5K. You know what I'll do? How about I click on it and I will share it to you? I will share you the website because I cannot talk. And I probably screwed up what the actual website was. And I will share it to you for you guys to sign up and join. And you don't have to run or walk. You can sign up and just help support Ballard High School athletics. There is the website, Running of the Beavers 2025. All the information is there. Running of the Beavers 5k.com. That is coming up on March 22nd at 9:30 in the morning at Golden Gardens. Now, signing up today using the $5 discount code Puck Sports. So you can sign up today. You get $5 off discount code if you use Puck Sports. Every participant's going to receive a collectible day race t-shirt to show off your Beaver pride around town, even if you're not a Beaver. Support Beaver athletics. You can run or walk in support of your favorite Ballard High School team, gymnastics, performing arts, dance team, or cheer. It's going to be a fun course. You know, I may get out there. I'm going to do a hybrid of a walk-run, maybe just a fast walk. Race registrants and supporters can choose which, again, Ballard High School sport or activity that their money goes to. But it's right there. If you want to save, it would be great. Save or support Ballard High School. And again, listen, all high schools. If you got a high school out there, send me your information. I'll promote it as well. I support Ballard just because it's obviously in my neighborhood, and that's where my kids go. But I support all high school athletics. I think it's the best. I think high school athletics is the single best thing that we got going on. Professional sports, there's issues. College sports, it's a mess. High school athletics, I don't care what it is like the last pure form of sports that we know. And there's just nothing like it. Just nothing like it, where the community all gets behind one athletic team. So it's awesome. And so whatever high school you have that's in your neighborhood, whatever it is, go and support them. Join the Boosters Club. Support them any way you can. You know, there's a lot of resources at these high schools that are all being cut. You know, where we're asking money's tight at all these high schools. Support them as much as you can. Athletics is such an amazing thing for these kids. And it gives them an outlet. It gives them this belonging to a team. You know, there's so many sports out there that aren't cut. They're not, non-cut sports that kids can join. And it's important. You know, keeps them busy, teaches them teamwork, teaches them, how to win and how to lose, because all those things are important. So if you got a chance to support your local high school like Ballard High School, please do, or another high school, do it. It will be well worth it. All right, let's wrap up the show with Hey, What the Puck. It's all brought to you by Restoration One of North Seattle, your restoration company. Lets you avoid the stress of water, fire, and mold damage with their property restoration services. Locally owned and operated. Make them your first call when those damages affect your residential or commercial property. 206-817-8917. Visit them online at restoration1.com, the North Seattle franchise. All right. Back to Julio Rodriguez, and we went over it earlier in the first month of the season in his career. It has not been good for Julio. He has always started off poor, and it's just something that has got to not continue this year. Got a guy who's got an on-base percentage of .296 in his first month, OPS of .642. We can hand-wring all we want about what they didn't do this offseason. Well, it's in the rearview mirror now. Unfortunately, by not doing anything, they have put more pressure on their superstar to deliver. And that's the biggest roadblock for Julio, is Julio put so much pressure on himself. And it's unfortunate, and this is the blame of ownership, by the way, and the front office, is that he feels he's got to do it all himself. And it's an unfair responsibility. Times, though, it's a responsibility that comes with the contract, though, that has been paid to him. But he's got to get off to a better start. I like the changes that they are making this year with him, allowing him to see someone like Andres Munoz. He needs to see all the other starting pitchers, getting him more action in spring training, getting him more action in spring training games. These are all things that I think can help Julio get off to a good start once the season gets going, because they got to get off to a good start. And they can't have these lulls where they struggle. And we talk about this all the time with baseball, when some baseball purists will sit there and, you can't overreact to the first week of the season. Yeah, you can. And you can overreact to the first month of the season, because this team in the last 2 years has missed the playoffs by one game. They all matter, by the way. I know no one's going to go 162-0. I get that, and I think a lot of people get that. But those losses early in the season, they do all count, by the way. Every one of them. And when you're an organization that lives on the razor's edge of winning and losing, those games that you lose early in the season count just as much as the games that you lose in July and August. And because of the situation, the weather, the ballpark here in the beginning of the season, they've got to take advantage of the early portion of their schedule and not bury themselves. They didn't bury themselves last year. Their swoon just came later in the year. So it's not all about getting off to a fast start. But for him and his confidence level and the step that he needs to take to be that superstar in Major League Baseball, he can't have these slow starts anymore this season. All right, that's Hey What the Puck, again, brought to you by Restoration One of North Seattle, your restoration company that lets you avoid the stress of water, fire, and mold damage with their property restoration services. Locally owned and operated. Make them your first call when those damages affect your residential or commercial property. 206-817-8917. Visit them online, restoration1.com, the North Seattle franchise. Thank you for watching and listening to the show today. Thank you to all our sponsors today, Limback Lumber. We also, Georgetown Brewery. Check out the new tavern beer at your local bar or at georgetownbeer.com, or Georgetown Brewery, I should say. And, of course, Restoration One and Zeke's Pizza. Today's Daily Puck Drop up on YouTube. Please subscribe to the channel. Also, the Daily Puck Drop on all your favorite podcast platforms, pucksports.com. Again, when you're at pucksports.com, please sign up to become a member of the Pucks Posse. Just $5 a month supports all the free content that we do, plus the VIP and exclusive content like our baseball coverage with Ryan Divish of the Seattle Times, and which started last week, our NFL draft coverage with Dane Brugler of The Athletic, author of The Beast. Check it out at pucksports.com. That is a Tuesday show in the books. We'll talk to you tomorrow on Wednesday, which includes a visit with Ryan Divish again, and more draft coverage with Rob Staten, SeahawksDraftBlog.com. We'll talk to you tomorrow. As always, we promise to be better.
No shoes, no dice.
Would anybody like to smoke some pot?
Yeah.
I was born to love you. I was born to lick your face. I was born to rub you. But you were born to rub me first.
What do you need my address for?
We'd like to send out a mailer.
Mother of mercy, I don't speak Japanese!